All right. All right. So today we're going to be talking about Law 8, 9, and 10. But I wanted to start again. Does anybody want to share any wins, any action steps that they've started to put into place that they feel like has made a difference? I just wanted to hear if there's anything. I sent an email out to you guys kind of talking about the action steps that I was specifically working on. This past week, I actually sent out our video to two people who I would consider two of my favorite pastors in Church of the Highlands that speak that on a regular basis. And so I've asked them to evaluate it, and they have not gotten back to me yet, but I told them I would follow up this next week. So I'm hoping to get some feedback. Now, I will tell you that based on the history of pastors from Church of the Highlands, they will go ahead, they'll throw it at you. So I'm making sure I prepare myself that it's not going to come all back, peachy keen, because they will definitely they push pretty hard. So you got to prepare yourself for that type of stuff when you put yourself out. And then the other one I've been working on is a better, essentially a filing system for keeping up with. So we kind of talked about putting some systems into place to try to make your life a little easier, for it to go a little smoother, for you to be able to get more things accomplished. And I'm working on my capture method, which essentially whenever you're trying to do speaking, motivational speaking, personal growth type stuff, then even our community, just our communications within the church, when we do ministry moments, stories are crucial, quotes are crucial, things that motivate you are crucial. So I'm trying to come up with a better capture system so that when something happens, I log that somewhere so that I have it as a resource, because I can't tell you how many times I've thought to myself, gosh, I know I heard that, but where was it? And I can't put my hands back on it. So I'm trying to come up with a better capture. So I started working on that this week too. So anybody else have any thoughts on that? Anything that they've really kind of tried to put into place or action steps?
I've tried to exercise every day, and I have not accomplished that, but I have gotten back to it. I just can't seem to work it in every day. So,
well,
that's
actually
not good.
I mean, make sure, like we talked about, that you celebrate. Just because you can't do it every day doesn't mean that you don't celebrate that you are back into it. I mean, make sure to focus on the win, because the win is that you're back into it. So that's kind of part of this whole process, is remembering that they're not finish line goals, they're growth goals. So always remember that the whole point of it is that we continue to grow, not that we are immediately who we wish we were. It's a growth mindset. And so, hey, if you got back into it, that's a win, big win.
Why do I feel bad that I didn't get to the gym yesterday?
Because we haven't changed our mindset yet. That's one of the things that we're going to work on, is getting the mindset changed, where you focus on what you accomplished, not on what you didn't accomplish. That has to be the focus. And you did accomplish getting back in the gym. You didn't accomplish it every single day, fine. If you become perfect, then I would love to talk about it, but it's not going to happen. So what we always need to do is make sure that we celebrate the wins. And the win was you got back to the gym. So it's a change of mindset. All right, Fab, anything that you want to tell us about?
Well, this weekend I started with a healthier lifestyle, which that was my goal, and I had planned it. I mean, I had been planning it for weeks since I started with you, but I had never fully executed it. So I started Saturday, and yeah, it wasn't perfect. I guess the win that I've had in this 3 days that actually started was last night around the time that I want to binge eat, junk food. I just drank water and I went to bed. I didn't do it.
Very good. So that's awesome. So yes, celebrate the wins. I would like to encourage y'all to document your wins. I know that seems it's like, well, you're adding more to my life. Well, yes, but whatever you document, whatever you keep up with is what grows. So, I mean, make sure you write down your wins. Think about your wins. Just for, I mean, I'm talking about just a small journal, 3 minutes before you go to bed. What were my wins for today? What can I focus on tomorrow? And how can I do it better? And I mean, that's what would start there. And when you do that, you're like, you know what? I did have some wins. And this is what I can do even better tomorrow. And look how that made me feel. And it starts to kind of change your mindset. What we feed our brains is what grows. It's just those thoughts is take captive your thoughts. It's like I used to always tell my kids, mind your mind. You have to change your thoughts. Okay, that's awesome. So we had some wins this week. I'm excited to hear about them. The law of pain. Sounds, oh, we have Lisa. Yay, Lisa joined. All right. All right. So law of pain. Good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. Every problem introduces a problem to himself. So pain unmanageable. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Highlands College Evening Program at Gadsden. It's been one of the best experiences of my life. It's been wonderful. So the leader of it was a guy named Trey. And this is a recent story in my life. This just happened just a few months ago. And Trey was incredible. And I speak of him this way because he has passed away. But just this past spring, as he was the leader of well, he's been the leader there for years. But anyway, him and his wife took with their whole family, 4 boys. He was in his 40s, decided to a much deserved vacation because he didn't even hardly ever go anywhere. Took a much deserved vacation and went on a cruise ship. It was for their anniversary and also for their son graduating from high school and got accepted to Highlands College. And they headed on a cruise. And as the evening went on, Trey kept telling his wife Haley his head hurt, and just kept telling. He's like, I just got a really bad headache. And anyway, checked his blood pressure. He did have problems with high blood pressure. Took his blood pressure medicine. They went and got in the bed in their room, and he told Haley that his head was just really hurting. Well, anyway, he literally, as he said that to her, his eyes rolled back on the back of his head, and he died right there. And he had a brain aneurysm. And they resuscitated him on the ship, and they did everything they could to save him. As a matter of fact, they did get a heartbeat back, took him to the coast. He was on a ventilator for a long time and went into his organs just shut down. So they actually did get brain activity back, and they were able to communicate with him, not verbally, but through different signs and things. But his organs went into shutdown, and he did end up passing away. Pain unimaginable. Haley and the 4 boys going through that was incredible. She on staff at our church, sings on stage. She's wonderful and always smiling, one of the happiest people you've ever met in your life. And I mean, we were worried about her being able to come back to the church and just everything that was going to happen with her boys. They're very involved in the church, going to Highlands College, and really all because of Trey. And but through this process, Haley chose the positive mindset. She chose to learn from her pain. She chose to manage the pain and to turn a bad experience into a good experience. And she's back on the stage singing. This has only been a few months. She actually spoke just this past Sunday about the fact that because of our church family, pouring into her family, because of how she's handled this and how her sons have handled this, that her extended family, Trey's extended family, is moving from all over the country to this area to join Church of the Highlands because of what they've seen. And it's not just church, it's the people around her. And they have said that they don't have community in their life. They do not have support people in their life. And they want to be a part of this community. And they're moving. And all, I mean, like we're talking cousins, aunts, uncles, and they're all moving to this area because of how Haley handled that tragedy. So my point is that we all are going to have bad experiences. Number one, everyone has them, but it's how we handle them, because no one likes them, and few people make bad experiences positive experiences. But we have to evaluate how we handle these bad experiences in our life. And all of us have had them. Every single one of us has already had bad experiences in our life. And the only thing we could do is concentrate on how we managed those experiences. I'm sure there's good and bad things that we have done in our bad experiences. And this is when we sit down and we think about, how did we handle it? How has it helped us? What good has come out of it? And how can we handle the next bad experience that unfortunately will come about even better? So, number one, everyone has them. Expecting the world to treat you fairly just because you're a good person is a little like expecting the bull not to charge you because you're a vegetarian. And no one likes, this is number two, no one likes them, but no one likes it when they're in the middle of a bad experience, but it's usually just painful. But if you learn to manage the experience well, it tends to be what you always talk about later. It's our war stories. Not all of them, but most of them are, we can grow from it, and it tends to be one of the most pivotal moments in our lives where we grow from that experience. Success in life comes not from holding a good hand, but how we play a poor hand. So playing the poor hand well. Bad experiences can be turned into positive experiences. So John Maxwell went through a few of his bad experiences, and he went through many in his book, but I'm just going to mention just a few. The pain of incompetence. He originally, early in his career, was a pastor before he became a speaker, and he did a lot of counseling, and he said that he was horrible at it, and it forced him to figure out what his gifting was, because he was like, this is not it. And his gifting was not counseling. His gifting was equipping people. And because he was so bad at counseling, he had to come and figure out what it was that his gifting was. And he figured out that it was equipping. And that's where his turn was. He started equipping people. The pain of change. When he started doing this, he left the organization he was in and went to a new organization. Well, the reason it was so painful to him was, number one, his father was a leader in the organization he left. So he had to go to his father and talk to him about it. Well, wonderfully, his father supported him on it, but the other people within the organization really harassed his father about it. So it was really his father that suffered because of him leaving. And that was very painful for John Maxwell to see. But the fact that he left that organization and went into a new organization to equip people is the reason that he has grown to be who he is today, and has equipped and affected so many different people. The pain of not being number one. In one of his early jobs, he was a part of a church where the founding pastor was a wonderful leader. And that was a great opportunity for him to learn. But the pain of it was that he had to realize no one ever respected him in that position. He was never loved as much as the other pastor, because the other pastor was a founding pastor and he was a fabulous leader. So John Maxwell said that it was very painful for him because he was never enough. But he said he learned to lead from a place of humility. And that, he said, was something that he's treasured his entire life. All right, we're going to go through this next section pretty quickly because, like I said, we got to get through 3 today. So we are at how to turn your pain into life gain, a positive life stance. Really what we're talking about here is, do you get up in the morning thinking, am I going to make it through today? How am I going to make it through today? Or do you get up in the morning thinking, I can't wait for the challenges of today? When something in your day goes wrong, do you think to yourself, well, that went wrong and I'm not going to be able to do this? Or do you think to yourself, how can I solve this? How can I accomplish this? And with that being said, we have to, life is full of good and bad. Some of it you can control, some of it you can't. Some good and bad will find you. If you have a positive life stance, the good and bad will become better. If you have a negative life stance, the good and bad will become worse. So therefore, I choose a positive life stance. We're going to have to do this life thing. I mean, this is what we do. We can either choose, because positive and bad are going to come. It's not going to be all roses. And of course, it's not going to be all bad either. We can either choose to have fun at it, or we can choose for it to be miserable. Remember that emotions follow action. So if we choose positive activity, our emotions will follow. So again, like I said, it's not going to go away. We have to do this. So we might as well have fun. In this walk, as we hit some problems, we may need to really embrace creativity. Embrace and develop our creativity. Many of the problems in life that we're going to come across will only be solved with creativity and coming up with a new mindset. We will not be able to solve them with what we have today. We may have to develop ourselves and come up with a new way of looking at it. And good story that he told, guy had chicken houses, and John Maxwell told this story. This is not my story. John Maxwell talks about a guy who had chicken houses on a piece of property, and it just continued to flood. And at one point, he couldn't sell the property because it flooded. He couldn't grow his chicken houses because the property's flooded. And finally, he came to his wife and he said, I've had it. I can't be successful at this. And his wife said, get ducks. Creativity sometimes will help solve our problems. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Number 3, embrace the value of a bad experience. So J.F. Kennedy was asked once how he became a war hero. And his answer was, it was quite easy. Someone sunk my boat. So sometimes we really cannot have if we do not value the bad experience that we are in and rechange our focus, like think of a different way to look at it, then we cannot see the positive that can come from it. Make good changes after learning from our bad experience. So a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. If we do not evaluate, stop, and sometimes when we're in a bad experience, our emotions is what's controlling us. Sometimes that's just, it's our response. Well, that's understandable. But we sometimes need to sit down and separate our emotions from rational thought. Because if a bad experience is bad enough, what can really happen is that we really can become detached from rational thinking. So it's a good time to possibly sit down and get our emotions under control, sort of think of things rationally, and move forward and learn from that. Take responsibility for your life. And one short step, we can go from We can why me to woe is me. Living from a victim mentality does nothing more than keep us where we are. When we think in our own head that because of the things that have happened to us, I can't do this, or so and so has affected me, and so therefore I can't, then that is true. You can't. It will keep you right where you are. We have to learn to take the things that have happened to us, take the things in our life that we don't, some of the things that we do have control of, and some of the things we don't have control of. And those things need to teach us to grow. What can we learn from it? Where can we go from here? Not, I can't do it because of this. Victim mentality keeps you right where you are. So there's several action steps here. We're not going to go through those. Those are, I want you please to sit down. Learning this, we cannot take to living it. And I love that we were able to, Lisa, you missed the first few minutes, but it was, it's going to be coming to playback. We shared a few of our wins. So I just continue to encourage you, if you can only do one action step of each law, that's a win. I mean, we cannot change everything in one, a 6-week process. One action step with each one to start moving forward. And then we come back and we add and we grow and we build on that. Celebrate your wins. So go through these action steps, find something that really speaks to you, and just stay on it this week. All right, law number 9. I'll take a second here and pause. Is there any questions on that specific law? Any blanks that people miss? Anything that you want me to go back to?
Yep, I missed some. I don't know if I'm ADDing, but under
Well, I went through it quick.
How to turn your pain into gain. Choose a positive
life stance.
Life stance. All right. The next one was some of the blank and blank I can't control.
Good and bad.
And
almost all of these are good and bad. So some of the good and bad. Again, the next one, some of the good and bad.
Oh, the next one's good and bad too.
And then if I have a positive life stance, the good and bad.
All right.
And then the next one is if I have a negative life stance, the good and bad.
Okay. All right. That's all. Thanks.
That's it. Anybody else? No. Okay. So we are going to go now to the law of the ladder. So the ladder here is basically our character. You can only go as high on the ladder as your character will take you. If your character is not strong, the higher you go, the ladder becomes wobbly. So this is all based on our personal growth and developing our character. Character growth determines the height of your personal growth. Achievement to most people is something you do. To the high achiever, it is something you are. This is something I have experienced personally. We've talked about in the past conversations we've had, that as you start to focus on certain areas of your life, you're going to quickly start to find that you find yourself around these type of people. Well, ever since I've started doing this, I'm meeting business people who are extremely successful. And, in the big world, a lot of people big businesses have a bad rap. And what I'm finding, I am sure there's lots of people out there running these big businesses that are greedy and whatnot. But what I'm finding is that there are organizations all over. One of them actually was just sent to me. It's called the Lion's Den, which I was like, is that a strip club? And he was like, no, this is different. But it's called the Lion's Den, and they're going to be having a meeting, and I'm going to do my best to attend it. It is business people, very successful. You have to be a business owner to attend. And it is business people that are going that are focused on bettering their life through Christian principles, running their business through Christian principles. And I am meeting very top level business people who will not, this is their core. Like, I will run my business on character and no other, nothing else. And they give back into the community more than I have ever dreamed. And no one even realizes that that's how these businesses are run. And they just, but it is. And I love meeting these people. So ambition without guidance. I'm going to give you, we're going to kind of go through this. And if you miss any blanks, don't worry, we'll hit them at the end, because I'm going to kind of tell these blanks through a story. John Maxwell knew a guy named Jerry Anderson, and he, as a young person, he was extremely ambitious and was doing the best he could to build his businesses, but they just continued to fail. And he basically was a go-getter, but he had no guidance. And he finally met a guy named John, who was extremely successful. And he went to John and he said, "Hey, can you help me here? I just keep failing." And John handed him a little book and he said, "I do all of my business based on this book." And it was a little bitty book. And what the book was, it was the book of Proverbs that had been broken up into subjects. So Jerry actually continued to meet with John, and he found about 5 other people, and they agreed to meet weekly. Y'all, community is everything. Finding you a group of people that can help you stay in check and grow is so important. And that's what this is about. So he started meeting with these people, 5 or 6 people. They met together just for 1 hour every week, and they learned and discussed the principles of this little book. That was the book of Proverbs put into subjects. And when he started doing that, his business started to grow. As his business started to grow, people would start to come and ask him. And these principles, of course, were taught to him by John, but Jerry wanted to take these principles out into the world. So he went to John and he said, "Hey, can I take this and develop it into a program that we start investing into other people?" And John was like, "Yes, let's do it." All right, so I'm jumping through these right here. Ambition without guidance. To be a success, you have to think like a success, which is when he got his group together. And the next one is the principle starts to spread. So now he's taking this, joining with John, Jerry is, and he's spreading this into to businesses. Well, they went around the United States all over trying to do this, and nobody was interested. Nobody cared. They really couldn't find anybody that cared. I think if you don't have the vision, you can't see it. Well, they found somebody that was actually from Guatemala City that was here in the United States, and he said, "We want this." So they ended up going to Guatemala and starting this. And as they started it, this company in Guatemala just started to blossom. And as that happened, unfortunately, probably the reason this took place in Guatemala and not here in the US is you got to be pretty hungry sometimes. So the group in the area really dug into this because they saw the success, and it started to spread. And as it started to spread, they ended up into areas. The final area they ended up was actually a prison. And it was a prison that had a lot of problems with the leaders within the prison guards. It was very corrupt, and anyone that came in and tried to change anything was being killed. And he was like, it was a challenge. So this was where we got to the value of character. He had to dig in. He was actually very fearful on teaching this, but the value of character was what drove this. It was the personal traits that drove this, and it changed the prison system. And they were able to, even the prisoners, so they started with the prison guards, but the prisoners started to see it. And before long, the prisoners were coming out changed. So y'all, it's just amazing what growing yourself, growing your own personality, your personal, your integrity, how it can change where this can go. But your personal growth will be held in check by your values. All right, so the rungs on my character ladder. This is actually John Maxwell's character ladder that we're going to talk about. And he went through tons of them. So I'm barely going to hit on these. Again, I encourage y'all to go through this book. There's so much here. I will focus on being better on the inside than on the outside. Character matters. The inside influences the outside. The inside victories precede the outside ones. So if we want to improve our outside, we have to start with our inside. And it doesn't matter what we're talking about. It can be like Fab, you've talked about trying to have a healthier lifestyle. In order to do that, you have to improve the inside first, which is your thoughts, what you're telling yourself, your daily habits, how you perceive yourself is what will change. When we care what we're putting inside of ourselves because we care what the inside of ourselves looks like, then that will change what we put in us, which helps change not only our thoughts, but our food, our exercise routine, everything. We have to really start with wanting the inside of us to be better before it changes the outside. Our outside development is totally within our control. Our inside development is totally within our control. What we look like on the outside is not totally within our control. What we look like on the inside is totally within our control. I will follow the golden rule. People matter. So the golden rule simply goes back to, how do you want to be treated? Do you want to be treated with love? Do you want to be treated with respect? Do you want people to be considerate of your feelings? Do you want people to give you compassion and grace because of how much we're going to mess up? If we want to be treated that way, then we have to make sure that we're treating others with compassion and with grace when they mess up, some of which may be messing up towards us specifically. Well, if we were to accidentally mess up towards them, or even like just, I don't know, be stupid and do something on purpose, how would we want to be treated? We have to extend that. I don't have a huge problem with forgiving myself. I really don't actually have a hard time with forgiving others, but extending grace towards others, that can be, I sometimes tend to hold them to a standard that I can't, a lot of times things pop up in my head, the whole thing of how many times do I have to tell them? And then I remember that my loving Father in heaven is up there sometimes going, goodness, girl, how many times do I have to tell you? And it helps me to extend grace towards others. Number 3, I will teach only what I believe. If you don't believe it, there's no need to try to teach it. Passion matters. Borrowed belief has no passion and no power. So if you don't believe it, 2 options. Don't teach it, don't talk about it, don't participate in it, or learn about it so that you do believe it, so that you understand it, so that you can have passion in it. Number 4, we're going to be pushing it. I will value humility above all virtues. Perspective matters. Andy Stanley says, I've concluded that nobody plans to mess up their life. The problem is that few of us plan not to. This is, we don't pull the necessary safeguards in place to ensure a happy ending. So it's not that we plan on messing up, we just don't put in the safeguards to keep from messing up. Little planning goes a long ways. We have to remember the big picture. We cannot get stuck in the moment. We have to remember the big picture. We have to recognize that everyone has weaknesses. It's not just us that has weaknesses. We have to be more teachable. Being more teachable requires us to be more humble. We have to be willing to serve others. Every relationship, would we have a mindset of serving others? This is most important if you're in a leadership position. This is one of the reasons why I love Church of the Highlands so much. And I do also want to remember that Church of the Highlands is actually built on John Maxwell leadership principles. When you're a leader, it is all about serving. Being a leader has nothing to do, it all has to do with leading by serving others. And then be grateful. We only get where we get in life. One of the best courses you can go through at Church of the Highlands is their Freedom Program. You do it through a small group, and it ends in a conference. And I mean, you grow so much as a person going through that. But one of the warnings that Pastor gives at the conclusion of the conference is, now that you've gone through this process and you have released so many things and you've grown in so many areas, do not walk out of that conference thinking, well, now I am so much better than everybody else because they've not gone through this. No, be grateful. Be grateful that you have gotten to where you are in your mind, and be ready to serve others and to impart that position with a humble spirit of how I can help others with this, not how I can teach others or how I can make other people better around me because of this. It is a humble spirit that we come into it. And then I will strive to finish well. Ooh, this one's mine. Faithfulness matters. And it's not, I don't know about you guys, but finishing something is the hardest part for me. You just hit a point, you're like, I just want to be done. And we have to, and this can be good and bad things for me. It's just that last little details, the final touches. We have a tendency to, okay, I just want to be finished. This is good enough. And making sure that we remember that the last steps are as important as the first steps. Digging in. I do want to, one of the things that I've learned in scripture is that there's nowhere in scripture where people retire. I mean, people don't retire in the Bible. They continue to, your work may change. You may get to a mentorship level where you're helping others more in your life, but you don't ever go home or go to the beach and not come back in the Bible. We have to finish well. My favorite, well done, my good and faithful servant. All right, let's pause right there because we got 15 minutes. Anybody need some blanks filled in, and anybody have any thoughts or anything that spoke to them from that one?
I like that community is everything. And that's kind of hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like people move in circles. And that's what I've learned lately when someone said, well, we're just not in the same circle anymore. And I thought, what circle am I in?
Agreed. You're like,
I was offended by that. And then I thought, don't take offense. I mean, she's, a sweet girl, but that just like, so I want to be more inclusive of other people. And sometimes I don't think she is that person, right. But I know there's people out there with no community. I do have community. I don't think of them as circles, but I just think that's a struggle. And
yes,
and to find a good community sometimes is a struggle.
It is. Agreed. And it's funny because like you said, I mean, when she said that, well, that you're not in her circle anymore, y'all just aren't in the same circle. So I mean, that might be a good thing I mean, you might not want to be in her circle if that's what she has going on. I know that we need our core, but like you said, it doesn't need to be a circle. It's our core. And when
Yeah.
we have our core group of people, that feeds out. It's not a closed, it's your core. And it's a very different mindset. And that core is what we sometimes need to use to feed out and to feed back in as well. And I love looking at it more in that way than I've got my circle here, my circle here, and that's not our goal at all.
Well, I would really love to be pulled is not the right word, but somehow like included in some of your things that are good, because
Yes.
I don't know, at this age, I have a hard time. I'm not going to the gym every day. It's not as easy as it used to be for me.
No.
I'm not going to the office every day. And that's probably a good thing, because that
Mhm.
may not have been the right circle for me to have been in. But
Right.
so I appreciate your suggestions of anything that you come up with that you might think would be a good fit for me. And I don't know how Fab feels about it, or Lisa, but that's what I'm thinking.
Right. Well, I totally agree. And I think that like we were talking about making sure that it's somewhere that you can be, that you're being fed and you can feed others is the good place to be on that. But I would love to, yeah, we can definitely work on that. And I mentioned the Facebook group, so that's not been eliminated. I just have to figure out before I'm kind of trying to get my head around how I want it to look. And so I'm actually going to bounce some things off of you guys to get that set up. So we'll talk about that more too lately. If you don't mind, I'll probably send an email out on that and get y'all's evaluation of how that should look. So that is in the works. And that hopefully can be a sounding board in the future. Still doesn't replace the one-on-one face-to-face community. So that's definitely something that need to continue to grow in as well. Okay. Anybody else on that? And Linda, I love your feedback.
With I don't know if this is, I don't know, my brain is so early, and like it's like a sponge. I take information and then my brain's like, here and there. But I don't even know if this is related. Now I feel silly. But okay, so the law that really like resonated with me is like build character, because I'm 37 years old, and it's funny because it's like, well, I still need to work on that. It's just not like, oh, okay, I'm an adult now and that's who I am. And that's kind of how, I struggle, because I'm like, no, this is who I am. This is what I think. I don't want to compromise anymore. And it's silly. It's like, no, we were always compromising. We're always changing. We're always learning. So that's just kind of something that, kind of hit home. But the funny thing is, as I heard you today just kind of go through everything, the thought that came in my head was like, well, Fab, I realized that your issue, or right now, it's like I lose passion in things. Like I go 100%, I go, 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 and then I lose passion. And that's kind of maybe something that I've been really thinking, like, maybe that is something where you need to start working on, and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I know I'm all over the place with this. Sorry.
No, I think you're exactly right. But they kind of go hand in hand though. As far as, you got to work on your character, but we all that, working on your character, again, this is a flipping mindset. A lot of times people, when, like, if you say something, well, you got to work on your character, you take that as what do you mean? I'm a pretty decent person. Well, this isn't a negative. This is it's wonderful that you're who you are. And just think, as we learn, we can become more. I mean, it's not a negative. So it's a building. And the thing is that as you build, and it's like thinking about going up the ladder, when you're down here and you're building here and you get stronger and you go up a rung, your outlook's completely different now. And then as you build and you go up another rung, wow, look what I can see now. And so it's not, you just keep going. And as you build on yourself, you get more and more. Now, as far as the passion thing is concerned, you losing your passion. Hey, welcome to the club. I mean, that's like, we all have that going on, and it's tough. So I think that, I mean, I'm all over the place. Ask Linda on when y'all are together. I have this going, this going, this going, this going all over. And it is true. You have to figure out where your gifting is. You have to figure out where, and really learn to kind of bring it down. So a good mindset to that, a good thought process might not be, what else do I need to do? It might be, what do I not? It's like your to-do list maybe doesn't need to grow. Maybe you need to think, as you sit down and evaluate, what shouldn't I do? And it might not even be that what you shouldn't do is it might be a good thing, but is that what's helping me the most in my life right now? And that might be something you need to pull off of your list. Like Linda said, going to the office more. Maybe that's not where she needs to focus right now. It might be where you need to focus. I mean, it depends on where you are in your life, but figuring that out so that you can really focus on your passion. And one of the things that we talked about for your passion to go past passion is knowing your why. Like, why do I want to do this? Like, for me, this whole thing, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm developing this as we go. This is my passion. But I am currently trying to do school, work, my trauma therapy, and write this each week. And I have a small group that gets here of 17 people in 2 hours. I mean, it can get tired. I'm like, developing this as I go, but I remember my why. My why is because this is what I want to do. Like, feeding it. Like, when I get off of this with you guys in the morning, I know this is early and everything, but like I said, I've been up since 5. Well, why? Because this is what I want to do. I mean, this is my thing. So having your why can definitely help. Does that help at all?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Actually, you made that thought and that I could not put together. Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we are really bumping against time. I'm going to go through this one. If we go over just a few minutes, is everybody, because I hate to go through it so fast that you don't get anything. If we go over just a few, I'd like to be really respectful of your time. If you have somewhere you need to be, it will be sent out as a recording, but I'm just going to go over this last one. The law of the rubber band. So growth stops when you lose the tension between where you are and where you could be. Only a mediocre person is always at his best. So this is where we were talking about having our goals to be growth goals, not final goals. As we stretch, so you don't want to accomplish something and then become comfortable in it. Well, I'll get to that. So, series of stretches. John Maxwell talks about his stretches. And again, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to hit them just a little bit. But God's gift to us is potential. Our gift to God is developing that potential. John Maxwell's first choice that he discusses is his first pastorate. His father was a pastor. When he chose his first place to pastor, he did not choose to go where his father was. Why did he do that? Because he wanted to be stretched. He chose to go somewhere that it would require him to be his own person. He would not be following in his father's footsteps. He did that to stretch himself, to grow himself. His next one was, he decided when he realized he was not good at counseling, he was not good at that, he was good at teaching leadership. He was good at equipping other people. When he started doing that as a pastor, that was considered, back when he started doing it in the 1970s, early 80s, it was considered secular. So he got a lot of pushback on that. People did not want to, people and the other pastor people came to him and told him, stop this. This is not what you need to be doing. But he continued to do it because he wanted to equip other pastors with a leadership role. As that continued, it became where he had to communicate internationally. How did that stretch him? He had learned to communicate on a stage, and he was a wonderful communicator in his own language. When he went to do it internationally, it messed up his flow. As it messed up his flow, because he was having to be interpreted, he was no good at it. So he had to back up and equip himself and learn and grow himself, and he was stretched to become better to be able to communicate internationally. At that point, he crossed over to a new audience. He had people from the secular world, the businesses around, come to him. And again, this goes back to that value matters, character matters, know your values. So he had leaders from the business world come to him and want to be taught these leadership principles. These leadership principles, a lot of people who from the secular world that start following John Maxwell have no idea that he was a pastor, because that's not how he teaches his book. And he was criticized for that. He left being a pastor and went into the secular world of teaching in the business world. Tremendously criticized for doing that. Had lost friendships with a lot of his people he had friendships with forever, but he wanted to stretch himself and he went into it. At that point in his 60s, he was deciding that he was going to retire. Was approached that to basically start into an equipping mindset, which is the Maxwell leadership team, which is what I'm a part of. And so in his 60s, when he was about to retire, he now went into building a legacy. So he has a hand in it, but he has hired other people and brought in other people who are the leaders and who build this, but he sees it as his legacy because it'll live on past him. And it's so true, Will. I mean, he equips other people to take his material out to the world now. So the benefit of tension, few people want to stretch. It's not comfortable. I mean, just even think about it in the most simple, like a lot of people exercise and never stretch. Why? Because it hurts and it's not comfortable. You ask too many questions. The less you know, the less you have to do. That statement comes from how many people have been, and you hear this a whole bunch in the growing up years. Prevalent thing that people say on sitcoms and everything is, don't let everybody know what you know, because they're going to make you work. They're going to make you do this. If people know that you know how to fix something, then they're going to ask you to do it. Well, I mean, why would you ever want to be less so that people expect less out of you? I mean, average is not fun. So 42% of college graduates never read another college book, never read a book after college. Like they don't change their mindset from basically it's the mindset of, as long as you meet the criteria, you're going to get an A, you're going to get 100%. But no, when you get out of college, you have to deliver more than what's expected to be above average, to get attention within any of your work areas, life. And when I say attention, I don't mean this to be more, but I'm talking about to grow as a person. You have to deliver beyond what is expected. Like I hope in this course, when you guys signed up for this, you were getting more than you ever expected. I hope that I am delivering above your $100. I know that I have so much more. Like this is going to be a development and process, and the amount that people are charging to do this is much higher. But my goal will always be to deliver more than what I charge you. And that's my goal. So settling for status quo ultimately leads to dissatisfaction. If you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably be unhappy all the days of your life. Stretching always starts from the inside out. We talked about that earlier. This is the book that I've listed on here that I've not read yet. John Maxwell repeats this book all the time. It's actually a book that his son, that his dad got him to read as he was a child, and he said it changed his life. So when I get out of Highlands College and I'm not reading 100 books a day, and I am not trying to develop a John Maxwell program, this was going to be the first book I hit. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I have a feeling it's going to be a difficult book to read because I do believe that it's going to be in a language that I don't know if you guys have ever tried to read some of the older books. Their grammar was much higher than ours. Your circumstances must be uncongenial, but they shall not long remain. So if you but perceive an ideal and strive to reach it, you cannot travel within and stand still without. So I guess you might can see what I'm talking about. I think I'm going to have to really take my time to make it through that book to get what I really need to get out of it. All right, number 4, stretching always requires change. It's never too late to be what you might have been. Some of you guys are on this call and y'all are younger. Some of us are getting a little bit older, in between. We're at every range. Never think it's too late to do what I wanted to do. When you start to research, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, he was in his 60s when he started it. Just different things. It doesn't mean that we want to all of a sudden go build this big business. It just means that it is never too late to become who we wanted to become. Stretching sets you apart from others. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This has to do with when you stretch yourself, people will notice. When they notice, we need to remember that we feed and that takes our role from learn it, live it, lead it. From a humble standpoint, there is nothing better than feeding into those around you. When it has become part of your core and you start to feed it out, that's what brings it back for you. Stretching can become a lifestyle. Nature, I love this. Think this through. Nature has everywhere written her protest against idleness. Everything which ceases to struggle, which remains inactive, rapidly deteriorates. It is the struggle toward an ideal, the constant effort to get higher and further, which develops manhood and character. If you leave a house somewhere and you don't maintain it, it will not just stay like it is. It will go backwards. Anytime something is not attended to, grown, and improved, it goes backwards. It does not remain. Stretching gives you a shot at significance. A possibility is a hint from God, but one must follow it. Stretching to the end. So again, as I mentioned before, nowhere in the Bible does it have anything about people retiring. As we continue to grow, as we continue to get better at the things we do, we need to remember we don't stop. We just increase where we can go, who we can reach, the things that we can do. Our perception as we go up our ladder changes. All right, so that's all. Our action steps again are listed. I'm going to again encourage y'all this week once with my email. I hope you guys are reading that. Anybody have any thoughts or anything blanks that need to be filled in on that particular law?
Yep. I don't know where my brain went, but
oh, it's okay. Like I said,
it's number 1 and 2. The benefits, I guess, that was of stretching.
The benefits of tension.
Of tension. Okay. All right. And then 1.
That one is stretch. Few people want to stretch.
Okay. And then number 2.
Settling for the status quo.
Okay.
Ultimately leads to dissatisfaction. Sorry, my daughter's leaving.
Okay, I guess that means I need some ADH medicine or something.
Well, most of the time I've noticed the ones you miss is when I'd go from telling a story to jumping back in. So what I think is that means you're just paying attention. Because like I'm in a story and then I jump back in and I don't necessarily say blank, and that's the ones you tend to miss. So I think that you're just like listening to the story and I'm not necessarily cueing you back in.
Well, thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate that. Makes me feel a lot better.
Yes. But those are the ones you tend to miss. It's the ones right after the story. So I appreciate that you're showing into my story.
I am.
right.
They're great stories. This is really going to help me, but I just feel like I'm still pulled behind a truck and I've got to get on top of it instead of behind the 8 ball. This is good info, but I just need to take the time to study it. I do.
That is always the problem and that's the common issue. And that's the reason why you literally, if you don't, and look, I'm speaking to the choir right here, okay? So, because this is something that I try to implement and I don't always get it done. And of course, now celebrate the wins. But if you don't set up a time where you literally put it on your calendar, that I'm going to do this for this time, and you make it a priority. Now, remember, it can be 10 minutes. This doesn't require, look, when you start doing it, you're going to find that 10 minutes isn't enough, but that's okay. Start 5, 10, it doesn't matter. Just give it a few where you organize your thoughts. You think about these things, find one of them to look at and the action steps, and try to do it. That's where it begins. And but you have to make it, you will not accidentally happen into it. If you do not put it on your calendar with a reminder of do this, it will just do exactly what you said. You will just find yourself, I didn't do it again. I didn't do it again. I didn't. And that's where, and even if you do that, you're only going to say, well, I only got it done 3 times this week. Guess what? You got it done 3 times this week. That is a huge difference. That's what matters. Any other thoughts? All right.
I'm good. Thank you.
Well, thank y'all. I'm so excited. I absolutely love this. So 2 emails that'll come out this week. It will be just a review of the action steps, kind of like what I've been doing. So my win for the week was Linda had mentioned wanting to get these a little earlier. I got them out the third week, I got them out a day earlier. And then this week I got them out a day before that. So my goal this week is to get them out even at least 2 days before, like I did this past time. And if not, even a little bit earlier. So that's my goal. And I hope that helped a little bit. And then
Well, I appreciate that, Rhonda, but I printed them out this morning, so it was my bad.
okay. Hey, as long as they're getting to you, and I feel like as long as I can get them to you at least by the weekend so that you have time to get them printed out before Tuesday morning hits, then that helps somewhat. And then also the other email is I am looking at the Facebook. I've already got it set up. I've just got to a couple of things I have to decide on it and then get y'all's feedback. Is there's already a lot of people in it because it was being used as an action steps for my daily living on purpose, but I've never developed it. So I've got to decide, do I want it to be a private, or do I leave the people that are in it and see, and then revamp it, see if some of the people start to interact within it and let it grow from there. So those are the little things I've got to look at and think about. And I'm probably going to kind of let y'all become a member of it and then get feedback from y'all if you don't mind. So that's about it. I hope y'all have like the best week. Sorry that we went over, but I cannot tell you how much I enjoy the feedback and talking. So it's wonderful.
Well, thank you, and have a great day, girl. And I'm going to do better this week.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all too. I hope this is the best week ever.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.